All right, sorry for the interruption in the regularly scheduled program. Okay, I'm going to be eating, I'm going to be really honest with you, while I'm doing this video. So if you don't like the sound of people eating, I try to be as quiet as I can. Then you're just not going to have a good time if you listen to this video. And I gotta multitask because I never know when my daughter's going to wake up. Anyways, going back to my point where I was saying about these notorious serial killers, John Wayne Gacy, Ted Bundy, etc., etc. I tumbled down another rabbit hole, which was what happens once they are sentenced to death. What is it like in those final hours? And I feel a type of way about capital punishment. Now this is not a video for or against. These are things I am just discussing. Like, this is what the Eileen Wuornos documentary actually brought up, because I started looking looking at things about her, and then I came across like execution, and then her execution, and that led to like others' experiences, and then that led to other articles about like literally like minute by minute what happens to someone in those final hours. And it's just like, so okay, let me start here. I understand why the victims or the family members of the victims want to see these particular group of people put to death. They lost their family members in like the most brutal way, inhuman way possible. And they just want to see them suffer. And in cases like you have, like true psychopaths, I don't know if they'll ever get to a point, well, we'll never find out because they're all dead, if they truly can really redeem themselves. And I feel like society doesn't want to even give them the chance. And to a point, I don't blame them, because I feel there's just something very inhuman about all of those people. I'm not saying that people can't be redeemed for their heinous crimes. We are all worthy of a second chance. I just feel like those people that I have mentioned are so far gone that no one wants to see them back in society, because they'll just do it again. And I think a lot of them have vocalized that they just have no remorse and they probably would kill again. So a part of me, for that distinct group of people, I understand. I'm not saying I agree with it. I understand why people want to see them put to death. With that being said, I was reading accounts of inmates' final hours, and I had to say I felt very uneasy because, one, just the mere fact that you know for sure, for certain, that your death is imminent has to take an immense toll on yourself. Like, your anxiety level has to be through the roof. Like, you just can't sleep, you can't eat. Like, I was reading these accounts and I was getting anxious. Like, I felt my heart rate going up. So you have to deal with the fact that you know your death is imminent. A lot of states that do executions, they may or may not give you like your last meal. I don't even think the state of Texas even does last meals anymore. So there's a lot of accounts where like either they don't give you last meals, or they just simply, you won't get your last meal. Like, you can request it, you may get half of it, you may get a fourth of it, you may get none of it. And then it's just the mere fact that like at a certain point you won't be able to see your family. Like, everything is a last. You have your last shower, you have your last goodbyes to your family. The guards and the warden come in and explain exactly how you're gonna die. Like, that to me is like unbearable. I can imagine what some inmates go through with that. That's horrible. And then you have the issue. The third thing, there's been a lot of controversy because there's been some botched executions. So depending on whatever method they use, if it's electrocution, if it's gas. First of all, before I even go into that, I read about like when someone is gassed and it sounds absolutely inhumane. I almost had to click out of the browser because it's just so dark and just like you're watching someone just basically like asphyxiate, and that's awful. Not that any of this is great, but gassing just seems like inhumane to me. Going back to botched executions, either the electrodes weren't applied, if you're talking about electrocution, the electrodes weren't applied correctly, the sponges that they use, I guess, to conduct electricity aren't applied correctly, or they're not soaked in the proper saline. And so the prisoner, the inmate, actually feels every bit of it. And they're fried and they're burned, and like sometimes they don't even die right away. So then the executioner hits them with like 2 or 3 different volts. I think of like 2,000 volts of electricity. And I can't imagine what that's like to watch. I think I would never be the same if I actually watched an electrocution. There's just something that's very horror movie about it. Just something just very, just horrible. And so yeah, so if they don't apply the electrodes correctly, they don't write the sponges, you're basically watching someone like fry. I mean, it's not done in a humane way. And with the lethal injection, there's 3 drugs usually that they use. 2 of them can do some real chemical damage to your skin. And so, and they don't have professional medical staff inserting IVs, so they're not aware, or maybe they don't even care that these IVs infiltrate. And for those of you who know what infiltrate is, the catheter of the IV is no longer in the vein. And so as a result, the fluid that's supposed to be running in your vein is actually going into your skin. That's very, depending on that's very dangerous. It causes a lot of problems. And so these drugs are like potassium chloride. They give a lethal dose, which is going to stop your heart like immediately, but that doesn't go into your veins right away. It may go into your skin, which really burns. So the person, the inmate or whoever, yeah, they're gonna die, but they're gonna feel every bit of it before and even then it may not even be swift as they like, because the amount of drug that's supposed to be in their veins is not, it's in their skin. So the whole process is going to take much longer. And you know, there are people out there who are like, I could care less, let them suffer. They've caused a lot of suffering in other people's lives. Like, I don't even see them as human anymore. They can suffer to their very last breath. I'm very aware that there are people like that. But I don't want to say but, I'm thinking of the inmates who have really changed while they're in prison, because I do believe people can change. I feel that all in all, I just think as a society we need to be better. Is there, again, I don't know how I feel about capital punishment, because again, like, I can't have the Ted Bundys and the Jeffrey Dahmers. They cannot function in society, and we can't let them out. I mean, you can hold them in jail forever, but I feel like that's another kind of hell. Human beings aren't meant to be confined, but I guess again, you can say that if you've killed a bunch of people, you've waived your rights at all. I mean, is there a question of, is there a humane way to kill someone? And it wasn't until I really watched these documentaries and really started like reading these articles where I was kind of like, I realized in my mid-30s, 36 years old, I said, oh my God, we really are killing people. Like, that's what capital punishment is. Like, I know it sounds dumb to say that, but I never thought about it until I saw how it's broken down. And I mean, it's still murder. You just have legislative support behind it, but it's still a murder. And I don't know, like, as a society, like, is that the message that we want to send out? Is that the answer to every inmate who's on death row? There's just something very disturbing about it. And like I said, at the same time, I'm not mad at family members who want to see these people die. They've caused a lot of hurt. They've blown up families. And they have zero sympathy for them. But it always makes me think, I mean, I feel like for things to change, I don't know what it's going to take for things to change. There has to be a better solution to this. In addition to that, I just think there's something very primal, very primitive about our need to see others suffer. And I didn't know. Well, actually, I did know. I know that executions used to be like a public thing, but I guess there was concern that, you know, it was becoming very like carnival-esque in regards to you're basically watching this freak show on humanity. So they don't want to get this illusion, society, they, whoever they is, the powers that be, didn't want to do public executions anymore because they didn't want to, I guess, desensitize people to death and make it like something that you should be, that you enjoy watching. So now a lot of executions they're private. Usually the families are in attendance, reporters. I forgot who else goes. But usually it's in the prison and you're watching someone die. It's different. You know, when I'm a nurse. And, you know, I've seen a lot of people die. And it's different because it's a disease process taking its course. It's expected. It's been going on for a while. But, you know, I feel like most people would have to feel a type of way of you watching another person take a life, regardless of like what it is. It is another, I mean, regardless of what you believe, you are killing somebody, and that's not natural. So I can see why people would be uneasy watching an execution. It's not a natural thing. I haven't really decided what is the best solution. Like I said, I've never lost. I pray to God I never lose a family member or get murdered at the hands of a murderer. Someone who has no remorse. I don't know if you can let them out in society. How can they be a normal person? They enjoy killing people. They're a menace to society. I mean, yeah, I'm just thinking about, this isn't funny, but I think this is kind of like what reminds me of. For those of you who watch American Horror Story, there was a character, she was a black woman, who ends up befriending, like, I don't even know how to describe her. She's not a ghost, because she's actually like, her name was Laura Laurie, Miss Laurie. Anyways, she had been cursed, and she had been cursed with immortality. So she's, no matter what you do, she's gonna be alive forever. Anyways, this black character kind of like tries to befriend her, and then they come to a point. She was racist, by the way. She was racist and she tortured slaves. Like, she's actually a real person. She was super racist and she tortured slaves. So this black character was trying to befriend her, trying to show her the error of her way, show her this is like what we're trying to do in 2017, whatever it was filmed. And it gets to a point where she realizes that, like, Miss LaLaurie is never going to change. She still hates everyone. She still hates black people. She feels like they should be enslaved. So even after all her attempts to try to like get her to like see her ways, she just was like, you gotta die. Like there's no other options for you. You cannot exist. You gotta die. And I feel like to a point, that's how people feel about murderers and serial killers. Not all of them, but the ones who show no remorse and do it again and would do it again in a heartbeat, it's like you gotta die. So again, what do we do as a society? It's scary. Like, I think I'm gonna have nightmares about Ted Bundy and John Wayne Gacy. They are far more terrifying than any other horror movie I will ever watch in my entire lifetime. But there's just something that just made me very sad about reading some of the cases on death row. I think it was just like reading the minute-to-minute breakdown of what it's like to be in your final hours of life, to know that you're in your final hours of life. It's terrifying. Like I think I would be like hysterical. And that's the thing, I don't really hear many accounts of what that time for them is like. I also think it's kind of weird that during an execution, if something goes awry, they close the curtain. Like they don't want you to see what's happening, and they won't tell you what's happening. Like I just feel like there's something like, I can't think of the right word. It's not unconstitutional, but that's highly skeptical. If you're having the viewing of an execution, reporters need to be able to do their job. People need to know like what is going on. So I don't know, that's just does not sit with me well. But I just made this video just to process some of my feelings towards capital punishment and just like people in general. And you know, even though these people have committed horrible crimes, heinous, unspeakable things, a part of me still feels I feel sorry for them in those last moments, because you know you're gonna die. That's horrible. I mean, that's and the jury has decided that you will die. Is there a more humane way? I mean, like, I think that's the question. I mean, just like, I know we want to see these people suffer. I know that. That's why they do petty things like taking away their last meal. I mean, it's going to be their last meal on the planet. Like, let them have it. I don't know. A part of me is just like, I don't understand why you just cannot. And again, I just think people just don't, they still want to see them suffer in every single capacity. But I don't know. I never thought about this before. So I watched this documentary that I spiraled into a rabbit hole. I think it's definitely a conversation that I think we need to have more often. Like, what does this message say? And I also found out that the most amount of executions are held in Texas. My husband's from Texas. Is Texas not part of the Bible Belt? I'm kind of confused, because very interesting that people, it's when people choose to show their compassion and forgiveness in that state. And that state is very much a Bible Belt, and it has the highest amount of executions out of all of them. That's disturbing. I don't know. I'm rambling at this point. I'm trying to think of, like, those are pretty much the emotions I felt. And even things like, again, you know how your internet sees what you're watching or reading, and then it uses its algorithm to point you in the direction of other things? Timothy McVeigh came up. Now, I was in middle school when the Oklahoma City bombing happened. I was aware of it, but I was like a middle schooler. I didn't pay much attention to it. I reread the story a couple of days ago, and I just felt horrified, upset, angered, and just like disgusted. I see these things as an adult. You know, you read them as an adult. I remember when that happened when I was a kid, but just like reading it, and there's like babies that were killed. Not that it doesn't matter, people were killed, but maybe it's because I'm a mom now and I'm just especially like heartbroken when I hear these things, and he had no remorse, and that just makes me mad. And again, it makes me understand why families want to see them die. Maybe it gives them comfort that they know for sure that they will never hurt another human being. Because I think he too was past the point of like redemption. It's sad. I get overwhelmed sometimes in this world. There's just so much hate and so much evil. But I don't know. I didn't mean to be so down about it, but I just wanted to talk and try to process how I feel about some of the things that I think I've been so desensitized to. I never really gave it much thought to, like the death penalty, capital punishment. I never really gave it much thought until I watched that documentary, and then I saw what happens. Yeah, I don't know if that's necessarily the best answer, but I cannot come up with another suggestion because I don't know. Anyways, I finished my meal. My tempeh wings, they're delicious. If anyone ever watches this or has any feelings about it, I'd love to hear about it. Okay, I'm gonna go do something happy now. That was super depressing. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.